UIC. Freedom the people of need. Hell yeah. Freedom the people of need. Yeah, yeah. Freedom the people of want. Freedom the people of need. Yeah, yeah. Freedom the people of want. Freedom the people of need. Yeah, yeah. Freedom the people of want. Freedom the people of need. Yeah, yeah. Real man a road. Now bow wolf in a tree grand a road. Now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road, me say yeah. Real man a road. Now bow wolf in a tree grand a road. Now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road. Ready for broke every chain. That when you free up the people, levitate. Jamaica member, you ever great. I feel burn up the fire upon every snake. Me give thanks in every way. God still a look down once we safe. I see around the road long time. GLP and PMP I sell we out. Still I do the test even though we know the end result. If them coulda kill with them catch we and hang we know. No force no coercion, me freedom in a step. No one fi rob we and kill we and feel them and go make it out. You know see the leeches, you know see the hands of the devil when him sleep with. You know see the leeches, you know see the hands of the devil when him sleep with. Yeah, real man a road. Now bow wolf in a tree grand a road. Now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road, me say yeah. Real man a road.
Hello, everyone. Good night, and welcome to everybody in our global space. Welcome to UIC Liberty TV. I am Chase Neal, General Secretary for the UIC and Shadow Minister of Education and Human Development. All right, here we have Lion Rule the Jungle Without Fear. Welcome again, Lion. Um, I am good. I am good. I hope you are doing well too. Um, is this 4ZI Truth? Good night to you too, JMH. Good night. Welcome, Patricia Brooks. I wish you a happy weekend also. All right, let's walk Komodo. Yes, bless up to you too. Sylvester Lawrence, JMH. Oh, JMH says share and like, and I ask everyone to share and like. Now, this evening, and we will be looking at some reasons what why we should really be proud to be Jamaica. Although being independent, as I say, Independence Day is really a show, a farce, a falsehood. There are some things that, as Jamaicans, we set the trend, and we'll be looking at them tonight. Welcome, Desmond Mary. Now, I had wanted to play that song by Sakaj, the winner of this year's festival song competition. Um, no, I did not want to risk any copyright issues, so I didn't bother with it. But I was listening to that song and I said, Jamaica has some things going for it, We have some things going for us. Nevertheless, although we are going to be looking at those things that should need to be Jamaica, those things that Jamaica is a trendsetter in, we still have to look at issues that are plaguing our country. All right, so we'll get right into it without the nice introduction of the song. For those who might not know, the song "No We No Better Than Ya," Sakaj looks at things in it that make Jamaica stand out, like the trees growing around our culture. She says something in the song that though the dollar might not bossy, we know that Jaja love way. Uh, um, and we need to be aware why the dollar not bossy. Welcome, Gloria. The dollar no bossy because of governance or the lack of proper governance that we have had since 1944. I encourage everybody who has not yet watched the last video by UIC President Joseph Patterson, why are we so poor? Get get it get it in your brain, right? So watch it and get the facts in your brain so you understand why we are poor and how we can do better than that. Also, I recommend a video before that, Bread and Circus. Will we fall for it again? And speaking of bread and circus, I did not intend to do a nice video when I saw the emancipation celebrations. Um, One thing that irritated me the most about the emancipation celebration was the release of peace doves. Uh, and that is bread and circus, as Mr. Patterson would have described in his video. Illusion, foolishness. Why on earth would our leaders come to release bird to symbolize peace when they themselves have the resources to manage crime and to really diminish all of this violence that's going on? If they only had the political will to govern properly and cut out the corruption. So this symbolizing of birds, and it irritated me because it's foolishness. And we, as Jamaicans, although we celebrate our culture, the positive aspects of our culture, we should not let our leaders treat we like we're idiots. No, we are not fools. So we must be able to let them know that we see the foolish they're doing. Bird, for peace, and you have the means to achieve peace. Anyway, we will be starting with a positive. Well, we already started, but we will be continuing on a positive note. Those things that make us proud to be Jamaican, those things that we have achieved so far, despite the bad governance, despite all of the negative things, we will move forward. All right, we have some more persons joining us. Our lady class is in session. President, good evening to you too, lady. Lego the bird, yes, yes, Douglas Harper. The people them Lego the bird, and if you Lego after that. All right, sound like a police. Not sure what you mean by that. Then Roy Black, welcome. Alex Baxter. All right. All right, sir. Your apology is noted. And Liddy, yes, it's a mockery towards the Jamaican people, vote bird. All right, so I'll be sharing my screen with you in a moment. No, I had wanted to adopt the symbolism of the 60 years of so-called independence, fake dependence. So I had wanted to find 60 reasons why we should be proud of being Jamaican because we have set the trend in those areas. But because of work and so forth, only managed 22. However, there are more than 60 things. And so what I'll be doing when I have finished with the 22 is speak of some things that I know through experience. And I welcome you in the chats too, in the comments, to say some things that really make us proud to be Jamaican. But you know, we still have a lick shot. Mr. Patterson made a post some years ago and he reshared where he said, I am a bad politician because I tell you things you don't want to hear. I point fingers where they should be pointed, and I give solutions. So UIC is the movement that tells the truth, and the truth is not nice to hear at all times. And Mr. Patterson is a very transparent person. It is not something that is easy to deal with, especially if persons are not used to hearing the full, blatant truth. And what I respect is that he is transparent even when it's uncomfortable for him. And UIC adopts that principle. So, yes, we're going to look at why we should be proud of being Jamaica. But there are issues that we still must address, issues that can be remedied through adopting the UIC method of governance and the UIC plans and policies. All right, so I think I have spoken enough now, and we're going to be looking at my screen, and we look at what it is that we should be Well, some of the things that we should be proud of um, in being Jamaican. I hope everyone can see my screen. All right, so the title is misleading because I did not get to 60, but we move on. All right, so facts that you probably did not know about Jamaica, and these are facts that are, for the most part, good about Jamaica. So the first one, Jamaica was the first country in the Western world to build a railroad, building a railroad just 18 years after Britain. Now that makes you wonder what happened to these railroads? What happened to the transport system? Jamaica was a forerunner in rail, the first country, which includes the United States of America and Canada. Jamaica was the first, even before those, to build a railroad. That's one thing that we should be proud of. Now, the second point is something that, yes, it's good, but I I have a grouse with it, and all well-meaning Jamaicans should have a grouse with it. I think. In 1962, Jamaica became the first Caribbean nation to gain its, I insert, so-called independence from Britain, but chose to remain a member of the British Commonwealth. And so, Queen Elizabeth II remains the Queen of Jamaica by tradition. All right, so Jamaica set the trend in that it became the first Caribbean nation to ask for direct to break off direct political rule from Britain. So that that was admirable to cut off the direct political rule by the crown. Unfortunately, Jamaica did not go the full way. And what we want to do is become the first country ever through the UIC to become a true republic. I think I want to interject a little here just to explain what that means. Now, a true republic is is a system in which the sovereignty rests in the people. So it is the people who are sovereign, not as in the Commonwealth where the crown is sovereign or the parliament is sovereign or the country itself is sovereign. No, under a true republic, the non-partisan constitutional republic that we want to bring about, it is each citizen who is sovereign because sovereignty rests in the people. That is what republic being a republic is about. But many countries who have that have adopted the title republic are not true republics because in some way they have diminished the citizens' sovereignty or not respected the right of the people to rule themselves. And by that I mean to be in control of their own self. Now, Jamaica may have made the step in 1962, half step here, to break kind of ish away from Britain, but we know we'll make history with your help with UIC's method of governance to become a true republic where we all, every single one of us, is responsible for our own life, liberty, and property. And so we'll be even more of a trailblazer in the global space. Now, the third fact that you may not have known, well, the the old ones would have must know this. The older ones among us, the seniors, Jamaica was the first Western country to commercially produce and export bananas. The country's banana industry began in 1866. Now, it is nice to rest on our laurels and say, yeah, man, we are the first to do this, right? But it is a cause for shame to think about where the industry has fallen to now. So we need to really do something about this. And through the UIC's policy of free of the free trade market, we will get that. We'll get that done. Number four, now we know that Jamaica is known for our musical talent. Almost everybody in Jamaica is a musician in some form or another. But did you know that many record companies launch new artists in Jamaica before introducing them internationally, believing that if a song is a hit in Jamaica, it will be popular in other parts of the world? Some of the artists launched in this way include Rihanna, UB40, Harry Belafonte, and Steel Pulse. All right, so yes, Jamaica, they rate us as being musical experts or having great musical tastes. So that's one thing that we may or may not have known about Jamaica. Number five, in 1997, well, I remember this, Jamaica became the first English speaking Caribbean country to qualify for the World Cup. Oh, I don't know what these numbers are doing here. All right, so the first English speaking Caribbean country to qualify for the World Cup. Um, the Reggae Boys are not doing as well as they did then, but this is something that shows that we have much potential. And when the UIC comes into government and we develop our human capital, then you can rest assured that we're not just going to be thinking about the good old days, but we will be achievers in sport in all the domains that we participate. And another admirable one is point six. Jamaica became the first tropical nation to participate in the Winter Olympics when it entered the bobsled event. And for those who watch Cool Runnings, there's this note. Its first efforts in the bobsled competition were the subject of the film Cool Runnings. Well, anything that we go in as Jamaicans, we put ourselves in it, especially when it's outside of this environment that seeks to hold us down. Especially when we go overseas, we really do well, and that speaks to the climate that we're in. Why is it that when we go overseas, we do so much better than when we are here? It is something to look into, and we know that a big part of that is governance and mismanagement of our resources, both our human resources and our financial resources. Number seven. Now, I like hip hop. I like rap music, which is not as popular here as dancehall is and reggae. But did you know that Cool Herc, who is a Jamaican, is seen as the father of hip hop. In fact, he's largely credited with originating rap and hip hop music um, from the old sound system days. He used to take the rhythms and talk on them overseas. I think it was in New York, and then people started to imitate and do the talking over the music, and rap originated. Number eight, another thing that you might not have known about Jamaica, and something that really puts us on the map, is Blue Mountain coffee, which is grown right here, is one of the rarest and most expensive coffees in the world. No, unfortunately though, the shares, Blue Mountain shares, do not benefit Jamaicans. It's foreign investors that benefit from Blue Mountain. And that's one of the unfortunate things about Jamaica. We have sold everything out to everybody. But the brand Jamaica, Blue Mountain Coffee brings the brand Jamaica, and we need to regain that brand, not only in as it relates to coffee, but in every aspect. We need to regain and reclaim and own brand Jamaica. Number nine. Now, this amazed me when I first saw it. I was like, wow. Jamaica's efficient telephone system design was copied by AT&T. We know about AT&T from cable ads for those who are here and for those who live in United States and so forth would have had experience with AT&T. But to know that AT&T exists by copying Jamaica's efficient telephone system from back then is a wow factor. Interesting. Number 10, and this is very powerful. Jamaica was the first country to take an official position against and impose economic sanctions on the former apartheid regime of South Africa. For the younger ones who might not know about apartheid, that was a system of um, racial discrimination and abuse of black people by the white minority living in South Africa. So white people go enough of themselves go over South Africa, living among the black people and take advantage of them. So there's whites only and black only facilities, and black people could not gain the same economic and educational and other aspects of life and resources that they needed. And Jamaica, both politically and through our artists, or reggae artists especially, condemned the practice. And I want us to look at this. Jamaica was the first to impose economic sanctions. Bad so. So we see here where Jamaica stood up against injustice overseas. But it is interesting that we don't stand up against exacting injustice on our own people. Let me stop sharing for a while. And yes, I want to make sure that I'm still seeing the comment section. And so it is interesting that our politicians exact injustice. And let me not just say our politicians, the entire political system is created to exact injustice on our people. Yet, we see where we were instrumental in freeing the plight of blacks in Africa, in South Africa. And that is something to be proud of. That is a legacy of Jamaicans. Now, through the UIC, you know what we want to do now? We want to break the injustice caused by the system and and its actors who are our politicians on the people of Jamaica. So we're going to go in the books again to set the trend for the world. All right, let me go to the comments for a while. I don't want to run leave you here, just in case you have some other things that we should be proud of too to mention, so we can make it known for everybody. All right, Joseph Richardson, great to see you. Lambert Williams, the best Swede in the world, indeed. That is that is really something that we should be proud of, really, because the not only for the medicinal aspects and the meditative aspects and the health benefits, but just for the pure relaxation and so forth. Jamaican weed is sought over all the world. All right. Yes. Anne Marie, welcome. Oh, Douglas Harper is speaking of where Food Herc. It is toasting and rap was originated in Bronx, New York. UIC will be the next government of Jamaica. This is what the country needs. Indeed, Joseph Richardson. Oh, Blue Mountain Coffee. Yes, Sir Harper. In fact, I did not know about the reach of Blue Mountain Coffee until I started teaching students all over the world online. So, Japan, China, Taiwan, South Korea, Russia, Mexico, Sudan. Yes, so those are a number of countries in which I have taught students online. And Blue Mountain Coffee, it stands out. Um, I should make it known that South Korea and Japan have very fast economies. So people on average sleep 5 to 6 hours, and they spend most of their time working. Yeah, an entire country like that. Wow. Well, most of it, especially in the urban areas. And Blue Mountain coffee is the coffee of choice for persons who have money and can afford it, and we take it for granted. But yes, it is seen as high quality outside of Jamaica. All right, Lion, Ruby Jungle uh, made a point. AT&T didn't copy it; they stole it. Yes, I'm sure they didn't ask permission, and copying it would be a nice way of saying them thief the idea. Oh, I know about the coffee for Alux. Oh, thanks for making that clear, JMH. No, Alux is a channel that speaks about wealthy persons, wealthy lifestyles, and how to become wealthy, and it also looks at the um, differences between wealthy persons, wealthy personalities, wealthy modes of thinking, and poor modes of thinking, poor personalities, poor countries, with a view to educate on what makes persons and countries and corporations wealthy and so forth. And the fact that Blue Mountain Coffee was mentioned on that channel speaks to the value of Blue Mountain coffee worldwide, and we just have it here like coffee up at Blue Mountain. Anyway, we move on to the rest of the reasons why we should be glad to be Jamaican, the things that we are actually leaders in. Uh, yes, Janet, too bad Jamaica didn't trademark so we could get royalties. Yes, that's true, but I'm going to mention some things that I thought that if Jamaica didn't drop the ball and trademark put a trademark on these things, then probably we would have benefited. But then again, we see where it may not have benefited us as citizens, but benefited those in power. So, but when the UIC comes in power, we would have corrected that. We're moving on to the rest of the presentation. All right. So the last thing I had said, let me just check. All right. So we had spoken about apartheid and how instrumental Jamaica was in ending that system of discrimination and abuse of blacks. Now, 11, the cast iron bridge that spans the Rio Cobre River is the oldest of its kind in the Western Hemisphere. All right, I had hesitated to include this because I did not do my research on the cast iron bridge so that I could better appreciate um, why it is that it is so special and what makes it so different. But it is something that makes us stand out in the world. It's the oldest of its kind. No, number 12, people. Tell me if you did know this. Did you know that Jamaica had electricity and running water in 1893 before these conveniences were implemented in the United States? My mouth fell on the floor when I researched this earlier. Jamaica had electricity and running water before the US. Then what happened? Why? Where did we go wrong? Well, that is a rhetorical question. Because we know that when we have a set of people who don't have the right mental will to run a country properly, then they run the country into the ground. But look at that. Jamaica had electricity and running water before the United States. Now, number 13. Now, this is especially for we would have known number 13. In Jamaica, it is socially unacceptable to use a person's first name unless invited to do so. I, I state this for the benefit of those persons who might not be Jamaican and maybe watching the channel, but I included it especially um, for us to realize that this is an unusual practice in many countries, particularly those who are associated with the United States and some European countries, where it's perfectly acceptable to call someone by their first name, even on meeting them for the first time. In fact, I have worked with some US companies in Jamaica, and it is nothing. Chase, how are you doing? But in our society, it would be more proper to refer to me as Mr. Neil, because Neil is my surname. And if you just get a bank card people by their first name, so you know, no manners, it is socially unacceptable. Now, if we are communicating or interacting with people of different worldviews, different cultural views, we would realize that this is a Jamaica thing, which we inherited from old time colonial Britain rules of decorum and so forth. And these are not practiced widely nowadays, even in the countries that we got them from, but it is still the case here in Jamaica. Uh, I was surprised, for example, when some missionaries came to Jamaica a couple of years back and they brought some doctors. And I heard them referring to the doctor by their first name. For example, Dr. Rachel, Dr. Sarah, Dr. Mark. So they use the title doctor and then the person's first name. Yes, it's not something that's done here. But what this does speak to, and why it is something that we should be proud of, it speaks to the fact that Jamaicans, for the most part, although we have so much crime and so forth, we stress good manners. It is a rule of good manners in our society. But despite Jamaica's failures and the shortcomings, we believe in good manners. We see it changing somewhat, not for the better, with more and more generations being born, but it is still a big part of our society. Number 14, the Artenique fruit, which is a cross between an orange and a tangerine, was developed in Jamaica. Now, we should we should be very proud of the fact that a fruit that is really seen as well, it is unique. So it's not just seen as unique, but a unique fruit started here in Jamaica, and it's appreciated all over the world. So we have impacted the world there. Number 15 is what really surprised me when I found out that chocolate milk was invented in Jamaica. Can you imagine if Jamaica put a trademark on that? Chocolate milk is being sold all over the world, and Jamaica is not credited. How on earth them fi have a chocolate milk invention and drink all over the place and sell, and nobody knows that this started in Jamaica? I mean, wow! Did you know that chocolate milk was invented in Jamaica? It, the chocolate milk started as a result of um, the Europeans not being able to appreciate the taste of cocoa. Chocolate. They use my cup of tea and then mash up the chocolate. I don't know if anybody remember them time there. Used to break the chocolate off the cocoa pods. You hear me talk like me an old boy. I'm a young boy. But anyway, our grandfathers and grandmothers would break the cocoa pods off the chocolate tree and dry it and grind it into cup of my cup of tea. Now, when the colonizers were in Jamaica, they could not appreciate the strong taste of it. Well, they call that strong. We call it nice. So the slaves, the blacks, used to mix it with milk so that they can drink to improve the taste. And then this white guy, I don't remember his name, came here, saw the idea, and brought it to the UK. And from there, it spread. Chocolate milk. Chocolate milk that people buy in box and sell and are going around should have been trademarked by Jamaicans, and we should have been profiting from that. All right, so we go on to the next. Ginger. All right, this was supposed to be there. I don't know why I forgot to put it there. But ginger beer was started in Jamaica also. So that's an extra fact. Now, this is interesting. Jamaica has the largest per capita cell phone penetration of any country in the world. Yeah. You know what that is saying? More people in Jamaica have more phones when you account for the population more than any other country in the world. Cell phone companies must really glad for it. But this does say that although there is poverty in Jamaica, there is a level of economic development that because that's what having a cell phone would speak to. The fact that you can afford it means that we were we're coming from a bad place economically, but we're really stepping up to the point that almost everybody can have cell phone. That's a very interesting fact. Number 17. Now, number 17 is something that irks me, that annoys me. Before I found out what I found out now, it would have been something for me to rejoice about. Jamaica is the eighth biggest producer of bauxite in the world. Bauxite, that red mineral, that red dirt that is used to create aluminum, the metal that is used to make cars and aluminum foil and airplanes and trains and a lot, cutlery, knives, forks, and so forth. Much of that comes from Jamaica because Jamaica is the eighth highest producer of bauxite in the world. Why don't I like that? It's not the fact that we are the eighth highest producer of bauxite that bothers me. JMH make a statement. We don't even have an aluminium factory. And that's a bad thing in and of itself. But that's not the primary reason why I am upset about the fact. It's the fact that we do not benefit from it. Senton, as I would have said before on this platform and elsewhere, has bauxite mining mines. And Senton is the poorest parish in Jamaica. There's mining in St. Elizabeth, there's mining in Trelawney, and those parishes do not benefit at all. Most of them, well, the majority of shares of bauxite in Jamaica are owned by the Russians and the rest by the Americans. Every single bauxite and aluminum that is produced benefits the Russians and the Americans, or more specifically, the Russian and American shareholders and those persons in our top leadership and the PSOJ who have deal with them and them butter them pocket. So, although Jamaica stands out on the global village, although we stand out in the world and it looks like a good thing, wow, Jamaica is the eighth highest producer of bauxite. Way to go, Jamaica. it speaks to the fact that we are being taken advantage of. The bauxite is here in Jamaica and we do not benefit from it. We should have been a rich country as the eighth highest producer of bauxite. So, you look good on paper, and so we can say, hey, my country are the eighth highest producer of bauxite. But still, it has that side that shows that we are not being governed properly and we are being taken advantage of the material resources. All right, yes, Mitzi, our people are too easily bought out, and that is one of our biggest problems. I concur. Lions even dog have phone in Jamaica. Yes, and the point about cell phones and how many persons. Oh, no one was seeing the screen share. Okay, all right. I hope that that changes when we go back in. All right, so I hope you see the screen this time. Going back to share screen. Number 18, Jamaica is currently the top tourist destination in the Caribbean and the 14th most popular tourist destination in the world. Well, in 2017, we were the 12th most popular, but for the past few couple of years, we are the 14th most popular tourist destination in the world. And in the Caribbean, we are the top, the first tourist destination. That that speaks to the natural beauty that we have as Jamaicans. We have a product that the world wants, and this is something that irks me to in that we don't benefit from it because these all-inclusive resorts only benefit their their shareholders and and their own and the directors and all the investors, but it does not benefit the Jamaican populace. So again, they come to reap what we have to benefit from our resources, and it does not benefit us. So we need to do something about that. And the only way to do something about that is to vote in the UIC so we can reclaim these resources for Jamaica because we it is apparent our leaders aren't doing anything about it. Now, number 19 is something that we would have all known. So, although this broadcast is about facts that you probably did not know about Jamaica, I included this one for a reason because of how it compares with the following. So, 19 says Jamaica has the most churches per square mile of any country on earth. Yeah, we have the most churches. The National Library of Jamaica reports that there are about 2.75 churches per square mile, a fact that's recognized by the Guinness World Book of Records. Is it a good thing that we have so many churches? I leave that for you to decide. But although this is not a secret, I don't think it is for most Jamaicans. I put it here because of number 20. So we have the most churches, but check this. Jamaica has the most rum bars per square mile of any country in the world. So either way you take it, we love with spirit. Whether it's their spirit in the buckle or the Holy Spirit, Jamaican love with spirit. It is interesting that we have so many churches, that we have so many rum bars. It makes me wonder why. Could it be that we are trying so hard to escape reality that it is either on our knees praying and not doing anything or in the bar drinking that we can escape the harsh realities around us? But either way, these are things that put us on the world map, things that stand out again, about Jamaica. Number 21, Jamaica was the only country outside of the United Kingdom in which the role of custos rotolorum exists, and is the only country currently where the role is still alive. So, um, why did I include this? Why did I include this? The role of Custos is actually a Jamaican role. It is from the colonial era, and we want to get rid of all forms of colonialism in Jamaica. But bear in mind that no other country in the world has a Custos. Jamaica alone have Custos, and in fact, the world was not the world. The role was developed because of the Jamaican situation, where Jamaica needed more justices of the peace. And if we look at what the justice of the peace was for, the justices were supposed to keep the peace on behalf of the king. So justices had the role of reading the Riot Act to prevent riots. And if we are familiar with history, we know that there were a lot of riots because of the inequalities in society. And so justices of the peace were appointed to quell the riots and try ease the people down. And in the case where them broke out, read the Riot Act and set the police on them, brutalize them. And to ensure that there were enough justices of the peace, and that the rules were carefully kept so that the king's peace could be held. The role of Custos was developed here. Now, what the Custos nowadays is the representative of the Governor General in the parish. So we know the Governor General is representative of the Queen in Jamaica, but in each parish, the custos would carry out any role that the Governor General needs him or her to carry out where the Governor General, cannot be present. And apart from that, the Governor General is the person who keeps the roll, the list or the register of all the justices of the peace in the parish, and is also instrumental in the selection of justices of the peace. So persons who want to be JPs would apply, and the custos, along with the parish judge, and the superintendent for the parish, would look at the applications and shortlist them, and those that are suitable, they send up to the Ministry of Justice. So that is the role of custos, and among other things, because they do visit poorhouses and um, jails and ensure that these, or should ensure that the rights of persons are upheld. But yeah, so we have justice. We have a custos in each parish. No other country has anymore. And the only other country that had custos apart from us was the United Kingdom. All right, let me check the chats before we go back to the notes here. Well, JMH says, if your country have more church than school, your country is poor. All right, shop boss. Um, shop boss wants us to talk about the factory, the dumping the chemical in the river, killing all the fishes. Well, that will be for another live shop boss. But and as I did say, we'll be touching some issues, so we could speak on that briefly when I'm finished presenting. Now we're looking at things that you may not have known about Jamaica. It was supposed to be 60, but we're working with 22 or so written down because of um, constraints with time and work I didn't get to finish. But yes, things you might not have known about Jamaica, and things that make Jamaica stand out in the world, things that should cause us to say, yes, Jamaica actually have an impact on the world. All right, so we move now to the next. And this one, I think, is very important because not many people know this, that Jamaican patois is actually a real language, although it is not the official language of Jamaica. Now, let me stop the share. Um, what we call patois or Jamaican Creole is not seen as equal with English, but linguists the world over appreciate our language, our native tongue, as an actual language. And it has its rules, it has grammar rules and so forth. Now, when I was studying as an English teacher, I had to do a course in linguistics, and we looked at languages, including Patois or Jamaican Creole. And when we were told that this is an actual bona fide language, we were surprised. When I tell people this, they are surprised. What I want to do is share some, share some features of Patois that make it stand out as a language, so that you can see what I'm talking about. I hope you'll be able to see and hear this video. But before I do that, Douglas Harper asks, would the UIC make Patois an official language in Jamaica? Uh, I hope that that is the case, and I do advocate for it. No, some people say that patois is not understood by any other country in the world, so it doesn't make sense to make it an official language. But there are many countries in the world that have languages that are only spoken in those countries. Like, for example, there is this country called Montenegro, and their official language is Montenegrin. It's a small country that exists in the middle of Italy, smaller than Jamaica, and it is only spoken in that country, but yet it is their official language. So there is no reason why Patois cannot be an official language just because it's spoken mainly by Jamaicans and uh, other Caribbean nations that are close to us. It is our language. It is definitely Jamaican, and it is frankly a miracle that Africans were able to combine different African languages on the basic English that they were all exposed to. They were all exposed to a common language against their will. That is our ancestors. Were all exposed to English, and they came with their different languages together and built upon English to create a new language that has rules that allow us to use it for everyday use. You know, or we form plural in patois by adding them. We emphasize the superlative by repeating our word nuff nuff, loud loud, big big. Yeah, but there are many rules to patois, same as we have rules to English, and patois fulfills the same functions that English or any other language fulfills. But enough of um, all right. Janet brings up a concern that our lawmakers would have expressed before. Janet says, if my memory serves me correctly, there were concerns that children would struggle more with the English language to write effectively. And this is actually a distraction because this is not true. Um, at the teaching college level, we are taught that it is best to teach English as a second language because, truthfully, it is. English for most Jamaicans is a second language. So We are taught to teach English as a second language, but when we go out into the actual classroom, we teach English as if it is the only language, and patois, for the most part, is not used at all in the classroom. So we are trying to teach children to talk a language that they are not familiar with. However, if we use the patois, which is our native tongue, as the foundation on which to teach English, then it is easier for them to learn English. Just as with Spanish, we use the English as the basis on which to teach Spanish, teaching Spanish as a second language. Uh, so Kamari Campbell asked, what is the benefit of patois? What is the benefit of any language? To communicate, to preserve culture, to generate messages. That is the benefit of a language. Now, what is the benefit of giving due credence and importance to patois? The thing is, if we accept this part of ourselves, you cannot separate patois from Jamaica. If we accept patois as equal to a foreign language, and English is a foreign language for us, that is why some of us struggle with it. So, if we accept that our tongue is good enough, and we should not even be considering whether it's good enough, but if we accept that our tongue is equal to, then there is that equal association of ourself as valuable as another person. If we look at other studies, we see where the language that we use influences our perception of ourselves and our world. But that is going into sociolinguistics. Now, if we value our language and our culture as good as another, then we value ourselves as a people as good as another, and then we increase our self confidence, and by increasing our self confidence, we increase our innovation, our willingness to go out and excel, especially in creating and not merely copying. Um, our our people excel at copying others, copying other modes of language. Yeah, we hear people can. Why not let them learn our language and talk like us? We see people bleaching, adopting the latest trends and so forth. Um, we are able to replicate something, but can we create on our own? No, we do not have enough um, confidence in self that we as a people, both collectively and individually, are good enough. And that starts with accepting who we are. And patois is part of the Jamaican experience. All right. Let me see if I can. All right. In the interest of time, I will not play that video, but I will refer to it. There is this channel on YouTube, Lang Focus. You can check it on your own time, Lang Focus, and it's on Jamaican patois, not English. You can check out that video to understand how patois was formed and why it is a true complete language in and of itself. And I do believe that as Jamaicans, we should accept the patois as an official language of Jamaica. Not the official, but why not have patois and English as official languages? In Belgium, there are three official languages. There's French, there's German, and another one I'm not remembering now. In Switzerland, they have many official languages too. There is the Latin, there is Italian, there are a number of them. There are countries with over 12 official languages. Now, it would make sense for us to copy that, but if at least we accept this part of ourselves, patois is Jamaica. Patois is something to be proud of. We were able to, out of an impossible situation, create something that helps us to express ourselves and make us known to the world. To repeat, It's YouTube, Lang Focus. That's the channel, Lang Focus. And you can type in Patois, Jamaican Patois, or look for that video on the Lang Focus, LANGFOCUS, and look for the Patois video. All right, so this would have brought us to the end of the things that I would have written down for us to discuss about what we are proud of. I thank you for the commenter who had mentioned the weed. That's another thing that we stand out for in um, in Jamaica. Something that uh, there is a comment here. Can you imagine you telling a Hispanic person what is the purpose of Spanish? Yes. So we have lost our African identity. If anything, we need to explore our lost roots and try to connect with our African ancestors. I am glad that you mentioned that because there was something that I had wanted Kamari Campbell to mention that started in Jamaica. Now, there is the thought, but it is not developed yet um, in the UIC for us to learn an African language or for us to teach an African language in our schools. One language that is spoken widely in Africa by multiple nations is Swahili, and if you can speak Swahili, you can speak to a number of sorry, sorry of African persons. If we can speak the language of our ancestors, of our brothers and sisters in Africa, then it is easier to transmit the culture and understand exactly where we're coming from if we can really talk with them and understand their terms. But another thing is, if we learn Swahili, for example, we would have knowledge of some of those languages that came together to create our own patois and understand that even some of the words and grammar rules in patois came from Africa. Another thing that I think that Jamaica, yes, Douglas Arthur, lang focus, the way you spelled it out, yes, that is correct. The title of the the video is Jamaican Patois, not English. Jamaican Patois, not English, in brackets. So you can follow that spelling in the chat. People who want to find out. All right. Now another thing that Jamaicans I think should be proud of is the fact that the Lumi was started in Jamaica. For those persons who don't know the Lumi was, well, not was, it still exists, is a currency, a digital currency, and also a physical currency that was started by the Maroons. It was recently, a couple of years ago, a couple of years ago in Acompo. They had the vision to create a currency for the use in Acompo, of a currency that was underwritten by solar energy and gold. Not to go into economics and talk about the lack of value of what we call fiat currency. That's currency that's not backed by anything but determined by the government. But the Lumi, that currency was backed by gold and solar energy. And it valued at the time around 1,200 Jamaican dollars. Now, the fact that we as a Jamaican people were able to think of a currency that exists both in the digital space and the physical space that was even more valuable than the US dollar. And not only that, but was copied by the African kingdoms, which is a federation of African countries that retain some level of kingship and chieftainship, those traditional titles. They saw the Lumi as groundbreaking and adopted the currency in their African Federation. And there is a newly developing state of African diaspora that also took the lumi as their currency. So although the Bank of Jamaica lock it down and shut it down in Jamaica, there are around 26 countries now in Africa that is using the lumi and even using it to benefit farmers who are not getting funding from their government and so forth. That so it was a a group of Jamaicans that had the vision to develop this. And then get locked down and shut down by our colonial government, which could have benefited from this if they supported. But no, that didn't happen. Uh, Douglas Harper asked, what about the Cromanti language? The Cromanti language is worth considering also, and it is one of those languages that went into the creation of Patois too. Lion says, we Jamaicans have to hold on to our culture and stop trying to be westernized. We need to hold on to our culture. There's benefit in learning the Western ways because we do exist in a global environment, and we have to communicate with other persons and learn how to interact with them. But it should not be at the cost of giving up ourselves and giving up what we own. Just to mention a few things that I know from the top of my head, Jamaica was the first country to develop parish development committees in 1993. Now, PDCs still exist, but they are not very effective as they should be and can be. For those who don't know what a PDC is a group of persons, representatives um, that come together to plan for parish development and also are allowed to sit on the meetings of several boards of the municipal corporations, that is the parish council, and ensure that they're doing their job. So to break down the PDCs now is in every community you have the right to form a CDC, which is a community development committee. Groups of persons from non-governmental organizations, from business places, uh, they come together, and special interest groups such as parent teachers associations, neighborhood watches, representatives from these organizations can come together for the benefit of the community and form community development committees called CDCs and register these with the Social Development Commission called the SDC. And then groups of CDCs in a particular area form developmental area committees that plan for the development of areas comprised of a number of communities. And then representatives from the developmental area committees and the community development committees come together to form an umbrella group in the parish called the Parish Development Committee, made up of ordinary citizens who don't need any qualification, just want to serve Jamaica voluntarily and make Jamaica better. And these groups have the ability to receive grants that even politicians can't get, so they can benefit their community in whatever way. And they have the right to sit on certain boards of the parish council, that is the municipal corporation, and ensure that they are doing their jobs. So this system started in 1993 in Jamaica and was copied by the United Kingdom, and this allowed them to make a safer community, well, safer communities in the UK. It benefited the UK, but it did not benefit us because of our political tribalism and our colonial mindset. We have not used the PDCs to their full potential, and they have become politicized and trivialized. But I mention this because I think that Jamaicans need to be aware that there's something called a PDC and be aware of the fact that we generated that idea and the world benefits from it. Student councils were first created in Jamaica's Education Act, although that the act is oppressive in many ways. Student councils started in Jamaica and were copied by the American system. So there are many things that Jamaicans should be proud of. But unfortunately, what we will, for the majority of us, will be celebrating tomorrow, Independence Day, is not one of them. it is impossible for us to have a Queen of Jamaica and say that we are independent. So, though we are proud to be Jamaican and proud to be innovative, and we have touched the world in many ways, the fact exists that as a country, we are severely limited and taken advantage of because of the system of governance that we are under. Now, the UIC wants to make Jamaica a Jamaica in which every Jamaican can achieve their best potential. And the only way to do that is to break down the system of governance in which a few individuals have a lot of power and can be as corrupt as they can be without consequences. And because of that, and the symptoms such as the crime and the violence, I don't see how we can say we are independent. So it's a fake independence. So we might celebrate because of our culture and the things that we have achieved and given to the world, but we have no right to celebrate being independent because we are not. Uh, I I am going to share a video by our president Joseph Patterson speaking on the fake independence that Jamaicans have blinded most of ourselves to. All right, so listen to this video and we resume after.
What I'm about to tell you is something that you may not have thought about before. It is something so very serious if you take the time to think about it carefully. Let's think about this thing called slavery and so-called independence and emancipation. The colonial masters were very smart, extremely smart. In fact, they have outsmarted us at every turn, and I'm going to show you how in a few basic words. First of all, they tricked our ancestors into chattel slavery. Then they tricked their offspring at the abolition of that slavery. Then they tricked the children that followed with the disingenuous apprenticeship form of slavery. Then they tricked the next generation with so-called emancipation without providing them proper education or capital to truly transition. Then they tricked our parents and grandparents into 78 years of a deadly, tribal, divisive, partisan politics created by their two colonial parties, while granting us the so-called right to vote ignorantly in so-called self-governance, with their governor from England still in charge. And then they almost permanently tricked us with a fake independence under their queen and house slaves called Governor General, Prime Minister, and parliamentarians. Let's do the math. After 346 years of chattel slavery, then came 106 years of fake freedom under colonial rule, followed by another 18 years of fake self-governance, where we learned to enshrine a two-party system to divide us. Then they followed this up with 60 years of fake independence. And can you imagine, some of us are still celebrating the lies and voting for more of the same as we continue this diabolical system of governance. Like Sam Sharp, Paul Bogle, and Marcus Garvey, I, Joseph L. Patterson, President of the United Independence Congress of Jamaica, will not dishonor my intelligence by partaking of this deception. It is time for us to be truly free. Let us stop asking or begging for liberty. Let us take it.
Our president said something at the end there Let us stop begging for liberty. Let us take it. And I think that would partially answer the question that Damien Smith poses in the chat. How serious is the UIC when it comes to the business of becoming a government body? Why I ask, not too many people know of this movement. Damien, this is by design. The UIC is blocked from the traditional media. The television, the radio stations will not carry us. The newspapers will not carry us unless there's something negative. Whenever there's negative news about the UIC, such as when our president got arrested last year, they tried to put it in a negative light. Um, Oddly, ironically, that is when the UIC blossomed in numbers and we got the most membership. But it is only in instances like that when they think they can ridicule us for the most part, where UIC is allowed a platform on traditional media, and we know that the majority of Jamaicans know about things that come on TV or radio and in the newspaper and so forth. Now, the question that I would ask is, how serious are the people in their desire for change? How serious are the people in wanting better for Jamaica? It is obvious that JLP and PNP cannot give Jamaica what we need. It cannot. None of them can make Jamaica better. And I do not say this because I have anything against the parties, and I have nothing against any particular leader. But the fact is, even if we get a very good prime minister under the system of the JLP or PNP, under this colonial Westminster style of government, as long as that system remains, we cannot get the best out of Jamaica. How did this even start when we got our so-called universal suffrage and rights to vote? Our first political leaders created a system where they used bullying to get votes. They created garrisons and armed our Jamaican brothers with guns so that by violence they could be assured of votes. And it has spilled over into modern society. The garrison still remain, but then the violence has spilled over from there and gone to the rest of society. And even today, politicians arm young people with guns to carry out their work. And we see a resulting in the high crime rate. We see how the governance system fosters corruption. So they brought in the same system that was in the UK and modified it for Jamaica. So they choose through their parties who you should vote for, and then they go and give you all sort of gifts and handouts to make you feel good. Yeah, 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 me MP, look out for me, and you sell your vote because that's in effect what you do. And when I say you, I'm speaking about the general populace over the years, right? You sell a vote for $3,000, $5,000, and $10,000. You sell out the rest of Jamaica for 5 years because the man do something for you, give you a little money that don't know by the end of the month. And this is what has been going on. They either buy the people's votes through handouts or buy through violence, the threat of violence. And they create the voting process into a game where people go and celebrate in unity, then get a little food and then blow them vuvuzela and not pot cover. Just another um, hiding from the realities of life. Everybody feel good and party and stuff. I'm born PNP, I'm born JLP, and you find unity together and feel good because everybody that you rolling with the same values, and we feel good for a short time till election pass and gone. And that feeling of niceness and community translates to 4 or 5 years of degradation and corruption and nothing now go on, you have to fly out. Right now, we have 400 teachers leaving to go overseas. What will happen when school reopens in September? This is a result of bad governance. So they buy out the votes, and we, like idiot, go and vote for them. Really, there was no other option. We go vote for them, right? What happens now is that the winning party, its leader, automatically controls the majority of parliament because it's the party that have the most MPs voted in that controls parliament, the body that makes our laws. So if the winning party decide to make a law that does not work on behalf of of the people of Jamaica, the Likkle being the opposition, what can they do? They are outvoted. They're outvoted by the because they are in the minority. So the winning party may get the majority votes. And the bill moves from the House of Representatives after they have debated and voted on it to the Senate. Now, the senators are chosen by the Prime Minister for the most part. There are 21 of them. The Prime Minister selects any any 13 persons. He doesn't have to tell us who he want and why. He choose any 13 that him decides that him want to be senator. Friend and company and Kumbolo, right? And the leader of the opposition chooses 8. Governor General by the Constitution has to sign off on it. He has no say, just sign off on it. By the way, it is the Prime Minister who selects the Governor General. So you see, this person have too much power. Prime Minister just recommend. They have the nice words, you know. The Prime Minister recommends the Governor General to the Queen, and the Queen sign off on it. But really, the Prime Minister select the Governor General. So this person who has won all of these votes controls the kind of laws that are passed because he has the majority in the lower house, the House of Representatives, and the majority in the upper house, which is the Senate. And that's we have 3 arms of governance. That's the legislative arm, the part that makes the laws. Then we have the cabinet, which we call the executive, the one that carries out the laws that are passed and manages the affairs of the country. Or we get the cabinet. The prime minister now chooses those ministers from his party with no qualification ever whatsoever. He does not need to qualify that he wants to run government ministries. He chooses who he wants. So anybody who wants to choose his minister of finance can be a brethren, can be his friend. Anybody as minister of education, and the person does not have to be qualified for education. So we find that the prime minister also controls how the country run by controlling and managing the cabinet, which he chooses anyway, right? And it's a friendship, and even amongst the parties, JNP and PNP are friend them. They put on a show for us to fight amongst each other, but friend and company. And then the third arm of government, the judiciary, that interprets the laws and is supposed to split justice on behalf of the people. Who chooses the chief justice? The prime minister. The prime minister advises the governor general, who also consults with the leader of the opposition. But it's really prime minister suggests, all right, this man who is qualified for law, him is a chief justice. And the chief justice now is that person who sits in the Supreme Court, who's in charge of that level and in charge of the parish judges at the parish level and so forth. And the chief justice may also sit on the Court of Appeal. So we see that even in the judiciary side of government, it is the man who win the most vote who control everything. So if you have a system where one man control everything and whatever he says goes, look at even this. The prime minister has the authority to call election when he chooses at any time. So Put on a good show and make the people feel good about you and call election right there, 5 more years. It makes no sense. We should have a fixed election date and not one that can be manipulated by the Prime Minister as well. And mind you, when I say Prime Minister, I don't necessarily mean the current Prime Minister. I'm speaking about any Prime Minister that comes in this system will get too much power. And we know that power corrupts. And even if him good, like gold, when him gone out, how can we how can we know who is the next person that we elect? What the personality is like? We must wait 5 years until monstrosity break out on us. Makes no sense. The UIC governance system is different. We don't have a system where we choose the candidates for you. Those persons who feel that they can do a good job at representing the country, at standing for the rights of their fellow Jamaicans must apply. And when they apply, they sit a test. If they pass that test, they send their qualifications and so forth, and they're vetted. Now, this is a system that we use right now, and the system that we intend to use when we are elected. This is a system that anybody who comes forward for representation must come through, apply, pass that governance test, and be vetted. You must be vetted. Your background must be known before you can get nominated and then run for election. And here's the sweet thing. Once you get vetted and you pass and you get nominated, then every single person who will run for government is funded by public funds. So you don't need a whole heap of money now to run for government, and it's just rich people them who are already wicked. Um, and I'm generalizing here, who running for government. The poorest of Jamaicans, once them can pass that test and the vetting that follows and get the nominees, then he will be provided for or she will be provided for to run for government, which opens up the system to everybody. And there will be no political party influence. So we cut down on corruption right there, because many times it is party loyalty and party favors that cause the corruption, because you belong to my party, me must give you a shove. We're not into that. Now, furthermore, anybody who is elected as an MP under the UIC system cannot ever be a minister of government. For someone to become a minister of government, that person, a cabinet minister that is, that person has to be qualified in the subject area that the ministry is concerned with. And then the president would nominate those persons who he thinks or she thinks um, are most suited for the ministries. But then that person has to be vetted, just like the MPs, has to be vetted publicly by the Senate. And those who pass the vetting will be elected by the people's representatives, that's the MPs. So they elect them, and those who pass that election, or those are the persons that are appointed. They are the ones who manage the government ministries under the management of the MPs who have nothing to do with them. MPs now passing laws independent of each other because they don't all belong to any same party. They have entered through on their own merit and passed the vetting, the tests, all of that. They pass a law at the House of Representative level, the lower house. And then well, let me say a bill because it doesn't actually become law until it's signed. So they pass a bill, and then the bill goes up to the upper house, which is the Senate. Now, these members of the Senate are not anybody who are appointed like it is now by the Prime Minister. No, people in each parish vote for their senator. So we have 14 senators because we have 14 parishes. And if they make Portmore a parish, we have 15 senators. But that aside, we have 14 parishes now. So we would have 14 senators elected by the people. in each of the parishes. So these senators now become the representatives of the people and not just no friend and company of the prime minister and leader of the opposition. And we have no leader of the opposition either because it don't make no sense. Every single MP is responsible for opposing any unconstitutional law or act by their peers. And then they would be supervised by the senators above them, who would also hold each other accountable. Then we have the senators who are elected by the people. Then we have three vice presidents who keep the president in check and can take over the executive in the absence or the incapacity of the president. Each of these three VPs are voted per county, so we have three vice presidents. Now, here's the beauty of the UIC system. The president, who would be both head of state and head of government, so no more governor general and prime minister, but just a president elected by the people, by the way. And this president is elected nationally. It doesn't have anything to do with which party win or anything like that. We elect the MPs separate from the president. So this president, before he can affect any policy or law, would have to get the majority of the vice presidents to agree with this policy. Or and then after he gets the buy-in from the president, he has to get the buy-in from the senators. So we see the checks and balances. So one person don't have too much power. Now, with this system, we can ensure that we cut out corruption, right? So the corruption that caused the hard life in Jamaica right now, the corruption that feeds into the gun trade and the drug trade and all of that, it can be corrected. We can be truly independent. We can be independent of our past. We can be independent of all these horrible things that are around us, which is as a result of the colonial rule that we are still under. If we elect the UIC into government and spread the word so people understand what it is that is going on. So for the gentleman who asked me before, how serious is UIC in becoming government? Very serious. But for us to be government, the people have to make a choice. But you know that scripture that says, how can they be saved if they never hear? And how can they be here unless, I'm paraphrasing, unless they heard the word and someone went to them? No, we here who hear the word and understand what's going on need to now bring the word to others and get them to understand the system and how the system operates and why we are the way we are. I said it at the beginning of the live. Check out the previous post before this, the one before this. Why are we so poor? And the one before that, bread and circus. Will we fall for it again? And you understand more about the society that we are in and why we are the way we are. But yes, we need to be independent. And the way to be independent has been given to us. It's not like before where we did not have any choice. We had to vote JLP or PNP or don't vote at all. Now there's another player in the game. And the UIC plans and policies will make Jamaica a first world country. But more than that, it will make Jamaicans first class citizens. We will have our sovereignty and we will truly be free. Free from poverty, free from crime, free to be our best selves. And that is independence. So, you see, when them come with them foolishness tomorrow about independence, I want you to bear in mind the vision of true independence. I want you to look at them and say, look at, well, let me not tell you what I want. I want you to make that choice for yourself and think about it. Is what they are selling beneficial for you and your children to come and your family and your peers? We want true independence, and the only way we can get that is if we as a people decide that we are serious about it. So the question I ask, are you serious about putting the UIC in government? Are you serious about UIC going government? And the only way we will get there is if you help us there. How? You can like, subscribe, and share so that YouTube's algorithms would spread this to more people. You can share with your peers so they get the message and share with their peers and share with their peers and down the line. You can donate, right? We are not funded by the private sector organization that want to come fool you about them Project Star. The same people. I want us to remember it is the same private sector organization in 2020 that tell the government make the vaccine. Let me not even say that. Make the injection mandatory. I don't want this video flag. I don't want people get it. That told the Jamaican government make the thing mandatory and influence businesses such as Digicel to run people home and unless they are taking the joke. And our Prime Minister, under this advice, sought permission from the Supreme Court to see whether or not a forced mandate would be unconstitutional. And he was given the go ahead that it would not be unconstitutional, provided that they had an education campaign. And that brought about the Ministry of Health and the Prime Minister going around on education campaigns around the country. What would have been the end of it? After they do that, they can just call the mandate. So if you don't get juke, you can't travel and you can't work. Thankfully, our president saw what was up. Unfortunately for him, in many ways, because he suffered for it financially and personally. He went out last year, September 22, and leading a march of over 500 persons and got arrested. And when he was arrested, he sued the state for breaching our constitutional rights. And because of that, the case was elevated to the Supreme Court, which balked them and halted them in their steps to make the thing mandatory and then change them to there is no plan to make the thing mandatory at this time. Why? Because of Joseph L. Patterson and his supporters in the UIC. So that is how serious UIC is defending the rights of the people and going into government. How serious are you in making UIC the government? So volunteer. If you're not at a place where you can volunteer, then donate. For if for those who want to know how to donate, you go to uicjamaica.com and click the tab donate. You will see the options to donate by PayPal, or you can do a bank transfer through Scotiabank and so forth. For those who are not in a position to volunteer or donate, share the live. All right. Damian Smith asked a question. What I'm trying to understand is the UIC a ballot contender on national general elections. It will be, but how this works is like for the upcoming local government elections, for example, for one to be a contender, the candidate has to pay a $15,000 registration fee and get I think it's 10 nominators, and once 10 persons nominate, then you are able to run. So when we will be a ballot contender because we're building our MPs and so forth at the national general elections. So when that time comes, you can be sure that the UIC will be a ballot contender. No, do not let this stop you, however, from applying. If you feel that you are MP material or council material, even if there is a UIC rep in your area and you feel you can do a good job, we welcome the challenge. Apply same way. Um, Let the UIC members in the parish decide who is the better candidate to represent them going forward. So if you want to know who's your representative in the area, and there is not a representative, or you think that you can be a better representative, or you know somebody who can be a representative, whether at the division or constituency level, apply. Encourage them to apply. Don't let that stop you. All right, and on that note, I stop here, and I recap that as Jamaicans, we have a lot to celebrate. We are movers, we are pioneers in many aspects of life. We have touched the world and we have influenced the world, but we are not truly independent. Imagine what we can do if we were truly independent, if we were able to achieve our best. In the same way that we have already touched the world, let us make an impact by becoming the first true republic. And what is a republic? A republic is a state in which power resides in the people, sovereignty resides in the people. And unless you are sovereign in your own right, your time, your body, your liberty, your property truly belongs to you, then you are not truly a republic. Let us make Jamaica the first true republic in the world. Not only because we want Jamaica look good, the sake of ourselves and our generation. All right, people, have yourself a great night. And remember, vote UIC, one Jamaica, walk good.